Sparkle, sparkle? Okay. Wow. Look at that rock. Okay. Okay, where am I? Okay, just humor me at first, okay? I had this thought, and I don't know, it may just fall flat on its face, but I've got to talk about it because I had this thought anyway. So, what are you laughing at? Me? Okay, so in Texas, they still do letter jackets. They don't do them in Tennessee, I don't think. But anyway, so when an athlete in Texas, when you letter in a sport, you get a letter jacket and a letter. And then on this letter is they put the sport that you letter in, and and you can how many years or whatever. So this is Matthew's letter jacket. So stay with me, okay? There's a point to all of this, I promise. So there's patches on here mean something. And I want to tell you two scenarios. I want to tell you about these patches, and then I want to tell you about another boy's patches, and then what you'll see. Okay, so here's so this is a baseball number 10, and this is his freshman year, all district, 6-3A newcomer of the year. When he was a freshman in high school, he wins this patch. Oh, he wins all. Did I ever tell the story about the all district that I did? Okay, I won't retell that. All right, so he gets this patch all the next year, 6-3A all district infield, 97-98. Wow, he's up there. He's 33 years old. The next year, all district infield, and then on this side, all district guard, first team 6-3A basketball, cross country regional qualifier, and cross country, went to state in the track meet, and all these and so all of these patches mean something, and it doesn't just mean like this all district thing. Like one of these patches to him means, yeah, that was the year that scout from the Chicago Cubs came to watch me play in a doubleheader, and I was so nervous when I saw him in the stands, I booted 10 ground balls, and the scout never came back. And needless to say, he didn't play for the Chicago Cubs. But every one of these patches mean that was the game. That was when I cried. That was when I went 4 for 4. Oh, that patch means I went 0 for 6. And so here's the point. It means that he was in the game. It meant that he played. And every one of those patches mean those are years that I sweated and I sacrificed and I took batting practice until my hands were bloody. And then I put on leather work gloves and climbed back in and swung some more. That patch meant I practiced my pitching in the snow when nobody was looking. And that patch meant I bounced balls against the wall hour after hour after hour and worked when nobody was looking. In secret, I was doing all of this thing. That patch means when my dad was out and we threw in the yard until it was dark. And Mom said, I told you 10 times to come to supper. One more pitch, Mom. It means all of those things. Every patch, it means blood and sweat and hard work. And it means victory. And it means crying until your nose bleeds. So then there's this other boy that I'm thinking about. Same color, same school. Who had a letter jacket for a sport that he never hardly went in the game. The only sport he played. Hardly ever got in the game, and when he did, it was like when it was a kickoff team when we were either really behind a whole bunch or ahead a whole bunch. It was like the mop-up team, and he got in and I can still see this boy from the bleachers, and I would watch him, and he would run off the field. After he just ran down the field. He ran off and took off his helmet, and he got the water bottle, and okay, it's like he's taking his own, what's that, ice challenge or whatever. He's pouring water on his head so it looks like that he's sweating. And he's got his hands on his knees. Wow. And he gets over and he gets the headset on, like he's talking to somebody up in a press box. I mean, it's all this posing stuff. He never really got in the game, but he wanted to look like that he was in the game. But his letter jacket didn't have a patch that meant anything. It had patches because you could buy a patch. And so the patch might say District 6-3A lineman. It didn't say all district. because it didn't mean all district, but it had this appearance. And so this boy had patches all over his jacket, and it had this, like his number, it was like this huge number that was on his whole back. I mean, it looked like, wow, that kid's impressive, but it didn't mean anything. And what it really didn't mean was he knew that it didn't mean anything. But what's the point? Here's the point. I don't want to just be on a team. I want to play. I don't want to just show up in a pew and pretend. I want to play. I want to bleed, and I want to hurt, and I want to cry, and I want to get on my knees, and I want to fast, and I want to believe, and I want to believe the incredible things of God. I want to take this word and work my rear off and sweat and bleed and cry until it becomes such a part of me, so that when I wear my letter jacket spiritually, it means something. And so I don't have to sit in a pew pretending that I have the red badge of courage or whatever. I'm telling you, it's not enough. Listen to me, church. I'm going to sound like the hellfire brimstone preacher. It's not enough anymore to pretend. It's not. The pretend days have got to be over. In my spiritual life, I don't want to be a poser using some words like I want to know what I'm talking about. I don't want to sit on a pew and think I've done something. Just like in a game, I want, just like playing, I want to be sore, and I want to be bruised, and I want to be bloody, and I want to hardly be able to get out of bed tomorrow because I'm so worn out or whatever. That's what I want in my spiritual life. And I want to be in a church that wants that too. I do. I mean, I'm not begging you. I'm not begging anymore for anything. I'm not. I'm going on. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to look like this spiritually. Does that make sense? And I want some people to go with me. Okay. Get to your sermon. All right. If you have your Bible, turn to Numbers 27, please. I couldn't find Nate's letter jacket. I guess he's got that. I'd rather wear it. It had some better patches. No, I'm playing. Matthew, if you're watching, no, I'm teasing. Numbers chapter 27. Okay. Man, this thing has worn me out. And again, I hope I can pull off the depth of what I have felt chewing on this week. Okay, let's look in start in verse 12. Okay, so here's the deal. Remember, they're at the Jordan River. Balaam's already done his thing, and they're at the Jordan River. It's time. It's been 40 years, and it's time to go into the promised land. And that's where we pick up. And then the Lord said to Moses, "Go up this mountain in the Abiram range and see the land I have given the Israelites." Yeah, this is what they've been waiting for, right? Moses, we're here. Go up in the mountain, and I want you to see. And after you have seen it, you too will be gathered to your people as your brother Aaron was. What? Whoa, wait a minute. You mean Moses, after all of this time, and he gets there, and God goes, Moses, you go up, and I'm going to let you look, and then you're going to die. It's like breathtaking. Well, wait a minute. Okay, and we're going to look in a minute, but back in chapter 20, something happened. Moses did something, and God said, Moses, you don't get to go in. And so it's like time has gone by, and you think, maybe God forgot. Maybe Moses is going to get a pass, and God didn't forget. And so here he goes. He goes, Moses, you can look, but you're going to be gathered to your people as Aaron was. For when the community rebelled at the waters in the desert of Zin, both of you, talking about he and Aaron, disobeyed my commandment. Look at this phrase, to honor me as holy before their eyes. Wow. These were the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the desert of Zin. And Moses said to the Lord, may the Lord, the God of the spirits of all mankind, appoint a man over this community. Man, I can't believe Moses' response. And that goes on, but that's... So does this bother you as much as it does me? Maybe I'm the only one, but this sounds like this... It sounds like a great punishment for not so great a sin. Okay, stay with me. Okay, he's 120 years old. I mean, if there was, when God said, here's the punishment, it's because you disobeyed my command to honor me as holy. Listen, if there was anyone holy, it was Moses, right? I mean, 120 years he's been obedient. Generations have passed away. They died off in the desert because of their stuff. And Moses he's stayed the course. He's stayed firm. He's believed. He's prayed. He's interceded. He's mediated. He's done all of those things. And one day he has a little stumble and he doesn't get to go in. He's going to die without seeing what God had promised. Something's wrong, God. Really? Or maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way. Or maybe I'm the only one that's brave enough to say it. I mean, does that not weigh out to you? Or maybe it does? Okay, I'm preaching to myself, okay, I can go to my office and talk to myself. All right. Moses was the holiest of them all. Come on, God! No man had ever seen as much of God's goodness and glory as Moses had. And what he had seen, it only whetted his appetite to see more. By the way, that's the way it is with all saints. It is. The more you see, the more you want. You're never satisfied. He was never, ever, ever satisfied with his patches on. I want another patch. I want to bleed some more. I want to hurt some more. I want to whatever it takes. If I can be closer to you, Father, I want. Okay. So this had to seem bitter. Much more so, it's chapter, I'm so far off my notes. It's chapter 20. Turn there a minute, please. So go back to the left just a few pages. Okay, so here's what's happened. Let me just refresh your memory. So, okay, remember way back in Exodus, they were coming out and they had no water, and God said, strike the rock, and he touched the rock, and water came out to take care of them all. And for 40 years they had water. But remember, God said, because of their sin and all that they were all going to die off, and then the new generation would continue to live. And so this is where the new generation, and now there's another rock. And God says in this chapter, he says, Moses, I want you to speak to the rock. Well, all right, let's look. So the people are grumbling, just like their moms and dads. Why did you bring us out here in verse 5? Why did you bring us out here to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there's no water to drink. Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them, which we just have been singing about. God, we want your glory. The Lord said to Moses, take your staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly and speak to the rock. Okay, that's important. Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink. So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he has commanded. Okay, he's obeying. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together, and Moses said to them, listen, you rebels, must we bring water out of this rock? Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice. Okay, a couple of seemingly minor things. God said, speak to the rock. He didn't speak, he hit it. He hit it twice. Ooh, that sounds so rebellious. And he kind of popped off a little. He said, listen, you rebels, must you bring what? Here's the deal. In my mind, I justify it this way. Okay, here's the thing. They're sounding like their mom and dad. I put up with them for 40 years, and now I got to start all over. I'm just a little perturbed. And then, here's another rock. The last rock cost me 40 years. This rock's going to cost me another 40. Boom, boom, dadgummit. That was it. That's the extent of it. And God goes, whoops, sorry. You don't get to go. What? Something about that. I go, oh, man. There's an interesting verse in, I'm so lost. Go to Psalm 106:33. This is so fascinating. Who has a King James? Joe's counting money, I guess, or something. Anybody have a King James? Joan does. I know you. Okay. All right. Psalm 106. The psalmist is reviewing the story. He's talking about this happened and this happened and this happened, and they go to verse 32. So he's telling this whole story about the Exodus, and it's fascinating. And then verse 32, and by the waters of Meribah they angered the Lord, and trouble came to Moses because of them. Really? Yep. For they rebelled against the Spirit of God, and rash words came from Moses' lips. What's the word for rash in the King James? Unadvisedly. Spoke unadvisedly with his lips. Okay, so Moses, the whole bunch of them rebelled, and Moses uses a rash word, and it cost him what it cost them? Okay, stay with me. Some of you are looking at really puzzled. So am I if I don't get back to my notes. Okay. So this had to seem bitter. So back in chapter 20, back when God said, okay, that's not going to happen, the promised land seemed a long way off. I mean, it's like a little more palatable then, maybe. I mean, it still stung, but okay, maybe God will forget, or maybe He'll change His mind, or maybe if I'm penitent enough, God will change His mind and I'll still get in. So back in chapter 20, but now it's near. And then there was hope that God might change His mind. And now the decree was final. It's not going to happen. It was irrevocable. So after so many victories and so much progress and so much that had happened all of these years, and they've gotten to the edge of they're at the Jordan River, and then to find that he's going to be excluded, that had to burn. The hopes of his lifetime were just about to be realized, and God said, no, you can't go in. So here's this millions of people who doubted, who murmured, who complained, who rebelled. Pardon me, there's no other way to say it. They had orgies. They danced naked around idols. All of this stuff. I get that. I get why they don't get to go. And he makes a rash sentence. I started to say I've said worse things when I stubbed my toe, but I won't. So God says in verse 12 of chapter 20, which we just looked at, because you have not trusted firmly in me. That's what the King James says. Because you have not trusted firmly in me. See, this wasn't unbelief. This wasn't distrust. It was simply not full believing confidence. Okay, listen, hear the difference. It wasn't distrust of God. It wasn't disbelief. It was just not total trust. It was this momentary wavering. Just one little stumble. So, because of all, he's worn out. I mean, can you imagine 80 years of this, 80 years of all of this stuff going on, and murmuring and complaining, and oh, good grief. And he has this one little deal. He acted unworthily of his office. And God punished him by taking his office from him. Wow. And giving it to someone else. But here's the deal. And the people didn't care. They just wanted water. What a contrast. What a contrast I see here. It's like here are these people that have done all of this stuff, and they just give us water. Give us what we want. I mean, nothing's different with them. Moses, because they lived for the immediate. Moses lived for the far off. They lived for the moment. Moses lived with something totally different in mind. He lived in a vision that God had given him way back. That God had given to his forefathers, that goes all the way back to the 7th chapter of Genesis, 7th or 11th chapter of Genesis, when God called this guy named Abram, and he plants this seed of a dream and a vision of a land way back there. Moses lived a far off life, and not just for the moment. And so he was going to die outside of the promise. He was going to die out of all that he gave his life to and his life for. And he was to have no part of the inheritance. Really? See, it is the lot of epic making men, the way to say that. Whether it's in the church, whether it's in the world, doesn't matter where it is. These people who are epic makers, that they work, they knowing somebody that lives afar off, that lives that kind of life, that's in the process of making epics. Understand, I may never get to fully see what I'm living my life for. Wow. That's a way I want to live. I don't want to live for a drink of water. Some of us in this room live our lives. I just satisfy me now. I want this now. And I want to live for so much bigger than that. Something far off. I want to live my life for my children's children's children. Where I'm pouring into them. I pray to God that my faith is like this big compared to Mary's faith when she's grown. I've laid my hands and watched people get healed. Terry and I have laid our hands on barren women, and we get a phone call the next month. You'll never believe I'm pregnant. Yes, yeah. I pray that is nothing compared to what Mary and Brooks get to see. Seriously. No, I just want a drink of water. I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm not trying to upset you, but listen. Get a patch, for goodness sakes. You don't get a patch for wanting a drink of water. You get a patch for falling prostrate on your face for days going, oh God, would you use me? God, do something in my life that's epic making. Do something, God, in and through this church that's going to change this part of Nashville. God, do something in this church that changes a country called Moldova. God, do something through us that changes some orphans' lives, that one day these orphan kids in this far-off place that probably we will never see. I want to live far off. God, would you do something through us in these orphans' lives so that this country there could be changed? Really? That's how you get a patch. It's easy for us to just want this immediate gratification, the immediate consequences of I want the fruits of my labor. I want it now. Give me this now. We're so impulsive. That's one of my things that's so frustrating to me. I shouldn't go down this road, but it's like at the touch of your fingertips, the phone. You think, it's like in 2 seconds, you're all over the world. We want everything now and blah, blah, blah. And you don't live far off that way. Quick returns mean small profits. And it means an unfinished life that succeeds. If at the end of my life I didn't totally realize all that I had given my life to, it's okay. It's better to have a half-finished temple than a finished pig pen. Seriously. I just want it today. I want to build my little pig pen. Gosh. It's better a life, the beginning of much and the completion of nothing. It is. I don't want water. I want Canaan. Even if I die of thirst on the way, I still want Canaan. I want my patch. I want to live my life for something bigger than myself. And I want this church to live our lives collectively for something bigger than, that's my pew. Really? I don't like that music. Really? Okay, we gave you Amazing Grace. We gave you some No Not One. I'm playing. But seriously, it's like come on, have a little, cast a vision a little bit further than your pew. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 3, almost done. This is, the next few minutes are just absolutely amazing. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 21. At that time, I commanded Joshua. Okay, this is Moses talking. He's kind of rehearsing, kind of what the psalmist was doing. Moses is kind of rehashing some stuff. At the time I commanded Joshua, you have seen with your own eyes what the Lord has done to these two kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms. Am I right? Go to 26. But because of you, the Lord was angry with me. Yeah, so Moses is talking to the people. And he said, because of you, the Lord was angry with me. And he would not listen to me. That is enough, the Lord said. Do not speak any more about this matter. Wow. So here's what he's talking about. He's talking about when Moses was up on the mountain and God was showing him into the promised land. Moses said, or God said, that's enough. Do not speak to me any more about this. Go to the top of Pisgah and look west. Listen to this. Listen to this is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful things about God. Go to the top of the mountain and look to the west. Now look to the north. Now Moses, look to the south. Now Moses, look right there. Look to the east. Look at the land with your own eyes. You're not going to cross. But I want you to look. God's letting him look. See, Moses privately had asked the Lord. This is amazing. Stay with me. He privately had asked the Lord, oh God, could you let me in? Oh Father, I've given my life. Is there any way? And listen, the one who had interceded over and over and over and over and changed God's mind over and over couldn't intercede for himself. God. There was no second Moses to go to God on his behalf. I thought of that. I said, wow, it just takes my breath. The Lord refused him. And Moses submits without a complaint. God, wow. Okay. See, it was natural for Moses to long for the completion of his work. It was. He wanted to see it through. Because this whole thing, from like really early on over here, this whole piece of the Bible right here was Moses' special work. The Exodus, Moses' work. All of this, he had given his life to these people, to this nation, to this God, and of course he wanted to see it through. Everything else in his life was preparatory for this right here. Okay? And so he doesn't want to leave it this way. And God is saying right here, my decree, what I spoke. We're going to look at this Wednesday night. It'll be really fascinating. See, remember the law. When you read the law, it's all associated with Moses. This is so beautiful. It's kind of it's a theological thing we're going to look at. If God had changed his mind, then the law would become null and void. And so, because God would have done, see, Moses represented the law, and what God is showing here is that the law can only bring you so far. And that's when Jesus comes. We're going to look at that Wednesday. It's just an awesome, okay? So, see, God could not allow the sin of one who stood in so close and personal relation to him. God couldn't allow Moses, who sinned, to pass through without the stamp of his displeasure. Here's another way to say it: a reversal of the sentence. If God goes, okay, never mind, I didn't really mean that. If he had reversed that, it would have shaken every other thing that God threatened. It's like we've had this conversation in our house just in the last week or two. God had been merciful, and yet it came to the point where God goes, the greatest mercy I can have is to not show mercy. Because you have to know that when I speak, I mean it. God's everything was at stake right here. And everything that in me going, no, God, Moses ought to get in. God, he can't get in. Because it undoes everything. But the greatest mercy is not to show mercy here. Okay. He interceded for others, but nobody could intercede for him. See, those who live the nearest to God, those who live the closest to him and are most honored by him. Listen, this isn't going to make sense, but it's true. You look over and over and over in here. Those that live the closest really need to expect to be treated with the most strictness. It's like, you know what? The neighborhood kids, they don't get what Brooks gets. Wow, Dad, you're being a little hard. Yeah, I am. It's like wearing this. You know, the other guy that I was telling you about, the second guy with his leather jacket, the coach never yelled at him. Funny. This guy got yelled at all the time. All the time. Screamed at. Rick Pink? I can start naming coaches. What is it about? It's because this one is invested. And when you're invested, when you're all in, there's a different level. Okay, I wish I had time to mess with all that. Now watch. God's refusal wasn't totally from a place of anger. You heard the tenor of his voice as he's talking to Moses. It's like, I can't let you in, but I'm going to let you see. And so it's almost like God, it doesn't say it, but I can see it. It's like God knew the very place to take him to, that he could see the north. I mean, God goes, look to the north, look to the south. There's got to only be just a handful of places, and God goes, okay, I love you so much. I have to stand by my word. My word depends on it. But it's almost like, remember, of course, I've sworn not to use this on my kids because I didn't like it, but now that I'm older, I see it. Remember this one? This hurts me worse than it hurts you. Bend over. This is going to hurt me worse than it hurts you. I thought, well, really? You bend over then. No. But now that I'm older and now that I get it, and God's going, Moses, this hurts me worse than it hurts you. With everything in me. With everything in me, I want you to walk in the promised land. But you can't. And this hurts me, Moses. but I'm going to do the next best thing. And so he takes him to the prime spot, and he goes, right here, right here. Whoa, look, okay, look to the north. What do you see? Oh, Moses, look at that. That's what I've been preparing. Look to the south, turn around. And he looks to the south, and he looks, God's showing him. I wish I could hear this whole conversation. You see that city? You see that? That's where this is going to happen. That. I mean, it's like God is just revealing it to him. So he's angry, and yet out of his anger is the most tender, compassionate. You can hear it in his voice. And so God makes this concession. He can't let him walk there, but he can let him see it. I'm going to go back for 1 second. I'm almost done. Stay with me. Back in Numbers chapter 27. That's where it says all of that about when you disobeyed. There might be no place, even in the promised land. Listen, there might be no place, even in the promised land, that had the view of where Abiram, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce that. I'm chewing on this. This is for another day. The whole idea of a Abiram view. I mean, it was revelation. God says, I'm taking you to this one spot because I want you to see things that very few other people are going to see. I want to show you the way I see. That's what revelation is. You know how when you're reading in your Bible and you've read, Terry called me this morning. I was down here really, really early. And she calls me, goes, I was reading my Bible and I read this verse. We've memorized it. Psalm 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, nor stands in the path of sinners, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. And it goes on and on and on until he goes, I saw something today I'd never seen before. And it's one little word, and it just came to life today. What is that? That's called revelation. It's the Abiram, however you say it. It's the view from this certain place, and God goes, okay, stay with me. Look, open your word. I want to show you this. I want to show you how I see things. That's called revelation. Steve Williams sends me those kind of things all the time. The Steve Williams view, the Abiram view from Steve Williams. He'll send me stuff. I go, how does he see that stuff? Steve Williams gets that? No, I'm playing.